Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. We all want to build a better business so we can be better architects. Well, a better business starts with planning for profit. Download your free course, Profit for Small Firm Architects, at EntreArchitect.com/free course. You are listening to EntreArchitect Podcast, and this is episode 190. Welcome back to the EntreArchitect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage, and this is the podcast dedicated to a successful life as a small firm architect. Whether you have plans to someday start your own firm, whether you're in the process of launching a startup, or you might be an experienced small firm architect just trying to make a difference, this podcast is for you. My goal is to inspire you to build a better business so that you may pursue your purpose with passion and live the life of your dreams. Last week over at the EntreArchitect community Facebook group, I held my first live interview using Facebook Live. I've used Facebook Live many times before, but this is the first time that I invited somebody on for an interview, and we did a side-by-side interview. It was really interesting. I invited my friend Alex Gore from F9 Productions to join me on the show, the first EntreArchitect Live interview, where we discussed Alex's work with Daniel Libeskind, the origin of his small firm up in Longmont, Colorado, his podcast Inside the Firm, where he transparently shares the behind the scenes each week with his partner Lance Psycho, and we discussed his book, The Creativity Code. This guy is doing everything. It was such a great conversation that I wanted to share it here with you. So this week at EntreArchitect Podcast, EntreArchitect Live with Alex Gore of F9 Productions. This episode of EntreArchitect Podcast is supported by our platform sponsors, FreshBooks, Gore by BQE Software, and ARCAT. And I'm going to share more about these great companies later in the show, but before we get started here, just take a quick note to schedule some time later today, as soon as you're finished listening here, to go visit each one of them and let them know that you appreciate them for supporting us, the EntreArchitect community. Okay, we are live, EntreArchitect Live. Today is Wednesday, October 11th, 2017. My name is Mark R. LePage. Welcome to EntreArchitect Live. We're live here at the EntreArchitect community on Facebook, and this is a new format here for EntreArchitect. We've done some Facebook Live sessions before. This is sort of an experiment. Everything else that we've ever done on Facebook Live has been an experiment, and it's always been me. I sort of did a few teaching sessions on some subjects. I've done just sort of testing the format and see how it works. When I was at AIA convention or the conference on architecture in Orlando, I did some live updates there. And I've recently, in the last few months, have done some live sort of talk while I walk, while I do my morning walk. And so I'm just sort of experimenting with the format and seeing how it works. Today, I'm going to do something different. Today, I'm bringing on a guest, and you may know who it is if you've been seeing any of the marketing. But we're going to do an Ask Me Anything, an AMA. It's something that you see around the internet on other channels, other platforms. An AMA, Ask Me Anything. So it's basically a session where you bring on someone else, and you can ask us any question you want. So you can get your questions started posting here. Any questions you may have for me, or maybe for our guest. I want to introduce our guest right now. Today's guest grew up drawing War of Ants versus Bees. I used to do that too. Not ants versus bees, but I did other drawing wars. It must be an architect thing. Also playing backyard baseball, visiting architectural sites, and being obsessed with Frank Lloyd Wright. And after graduating from high school, he joined the National Guard as a heavy equipment operator, which must have been fun. While enrolled at the Guard, he also attended North Dakota State University to start architecture school. And he graduated from North Dakota State with a master's degree in architecture and a master's degree in construction management. So you got two prongs here. And upon graduating, he worked under the world famous architect Daniel Libeskind, which is pretty cool. I want to hear a little bit about that. And from there, he teamed up with his best friend from college, Lance Psycho, and they started F9 Productions. So yeah, I'm sure if you are part of the EntreArchitect community, you know F9 Productions, you know our guest. He's the co-host of Inside the Firm podcast. He's the author of The Creativity Code. Can't have a better guy to start this new idea here, EntreArchitect Live. Today we have Alex Gore today with us. Let's bring him in. There he is.
Hey, how's it going, Mark? I'm very happy to be here. Excited to be here.
It's exciting to have you here. This is going to be sort of just a casual conversation.
Great.
Anybody who has any questions for Al or for me, you can post them in the comments right below this video. And I believe even after this video after we're finished here live, it'll still be on the group, and you can continue posting conversations there and questions. And I'm sure Alex and I will monitor those questions, and you can answer any questions that you might have. So even if you don't make it to this live session, you're welcome to post any questions you may have after we're finished live here. So Alex, I gave you sort of an introduction here so people have an idea of who you are and what you're doing. Before we get into the nitty gritty here, I Daniel Libeskind. How did you? I want to go right there. I want to go right to Daniel Libeskind. How did you pull that off right out of architecture school? He's a guy that I followed in architecture school with some of the unbuilt work that he did, and then he started, doing some pretty amazing work, built work. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's sort of a funny kind of coincidence because years before, even when I was in high school, my mom bought me a Time magazine article. She's like, "You should work for this guy, Daniel Libeskind." And I was like, nah, didn't even think about it. And then years later I did. And I tried to get Lance after college to move out to New York with me, but he wanted to move to Denver. And now he loves New York. But anyways, we started sending out resumes early in about January. And our professors are like, "This is way too early. You got plenty of time." Well, 2007 was different. You needed to be. And the keys that I learned was, if you're going in a different city, and from hiring people, we learned this too, tell them that you're going to be there no matter what. So if you're coming from Montana or California or whatever, because we don't want to waste your time, especially if we have 5 candidates. And the same is for these big guys. So I had a friend out there already that I knew since high school. So I was going to move out there. And then when I sent out resumes, I said, over spring break, I booked the tickets before I even had interviews. I said, "I'll be out here for interviews, from this time to this time." So I lined up, 4 or 5 interviews, and Libeskind kept balking. They kept, maybe, they kept saying weird stuff. And I remember being on the phone with one of the guys, and he's like, "Well, we'll offer you an internship." And I'm like, "Well, I want a job, like a full-time job. And I want to come in for an interview. Like I'm here, I'm in New York this whole week." And they said, "Well, you have to tell us whether you're going to turn down the internship or not." So I was like, I can't remember, how that, but then I reached out and I called someone else. I knew someone else there. And they said, "That's not true." It's kind of like a tactic, because if they could get me for the internship, then they get me for that.
Yeah.
However it went out, I didn't end up interviewing there, but I interviewed at a couple other places and got a couple different job offers. One for extraordinary amount of money for a kid coming out. I guess I don't know. It was, for me, I thought it was great. It was like a $50K plus, starting out salary.
Yeah.
So then I got a couple other job offers, and my boss walked up to me and he said, "Congratulations." I'm like, on what? He's like, "Oh, don't you know?" I'm like, "No." And they go, "Well, I was talking to, there's a head boss, Carla, and Nina Libeskind runs a lot of the stuff there. And I would talk to Nina basically every day. Me and this other intern, David, would go out for Burger King for shakes every day. And we'd say hi to her, because she's always at the front desk." Said, "Well, I talked to those two and Daniel, and they asked me if, we should hire you." And I said, "Yes." And normally they, listen to me. So I was in suspense for 2 days while they wrote up the offer letter. And then when I got it, I was happy, but it was a little bit less than that original one from 6 months ago. And I asked my girlfriend at the time, like, "Oh, should I ask for more money?" And she's like, "No, stupid, just take the job." So that then worked there.
What was the position that they were hiring for?
When I finally got hired,
Yeah.
I forgot what it was. Just your entry level designer. So I went from, basically the summer intern position, or sometimes people work during school.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
I mean, you're working full time, but you're not getting paid like staff. And then I got a job and a dedicated desk, and a dedicated computer and all that. It was great. It was amazing.
Well, that's exciting. Did it feel like a dream come true? Did it feel like it was even possible to work for a star architect like that?
It didn't. That's why I took it at the intern level. Yeah. Was when do you have the chance to do anything like this? And it was so great and so amazing. And there's so many architecture firms out there, OMA, SOM, just every major architecture firm you can think about is up there. So, people date or they go to, Columbia, and they know their friends are all in all the other ones. And what we kept hearing, which was great, is that we kind of have the same setup here at F9 that we have at Libeskind, meaning we just have doors as tables, and everything's open, and you have your filing cabinet under it. And we were hearing back from some of the other firms, like people were in competition with each other. They'd kind of put up barricades so that other people wouldn't see their ideas. And everyone at Libeskind was extremely smart, but then extremely open. I remember a guy coming over to my desk. He was programming some script and how to lay out these trees. And I was like, wow, you are 10 times smarter than me. And you are freely, just sharing this. So it was amazing experience.
Did you sort of base F9, the way F9 is structured, on the things you learned at Libeskind? There's
one major thing that we carried over. And it was, I don't know if it was necessarily like a point that Libeskind would say or teach, but essentially before he got big, he'd do crazy projects and projects that wouldn't even, make sense. And it was something that he was, passionate about. So
that's how I knew him. In architecture school, he was doing these bubble things that were growing out of the side of buildings. It was all illustration. It wasn't really architecture.
Yeah. And I even remember, so he came over to my desk and he's like, well, I want this like the archipelagos. I'm like, what are you talking about? Islands? And then he brought over one of his old books, and he, like this, now make this happen to that. And I was like, okay, I'll try. But, so we try to do one fun project a year, and that's led into some crazy cool stuff. So, the tiny house that we built, Atlas Tiny House, I think atlastinyhouse.com is the website, but we wanted to, if you're familiar with the tiny house movement, a lot of them look like cabins, and we thought, okay, let's make one that's sustainable and a little bit cooler. So, we sloped the front. There you go, Mark. So that it'd be more aerodynamic. Now more of them coming out in this modern kind of vein. Put solar panels on there, collected rainwater, all this other stuff. But it was making a commitment to do something cool every year. And then the other thing, I don't know how much we've implemented this, but we are putting up boards. And it actually wasn't my group. I was just walking down the hallway, and I think I just stepped into the conference room, and yelling is too strong of a word because he's not a mean guy. He's a very nice guy. But he's like, what is this? And they're trying to explain, like, yeah, this is the project that he's like, this looks like architecture boards. Like, yes, we are all architecture people. It's like, don't make it look like that. And it was just kind of a click to
be different.
Yeah. So
yeah. Interesting. There's sort of a controversy in the profession about interning for star architects, that a lot of star architects don't pay anything. That it's sort of a privilege to work for them, and they take advantage of that, and they take advantage of students by doing that. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it sounds like you were paid. You weren't paid at a market rate, but you were paid.
And I think all of us interns worked out our hourly rate back then, because we were working at least till almost 11 each night, but we didn't have to come in till 10. And then if you worked past 10, you could take a taxi home, which was awesome. But it was like $3 an hour, nothing. And what I think about it is, I think we pay our interns here at F9. There's two debates that I'm kind of interested in. That one, whether the pay at these star architects, and then studio culture. And my point of view is that because they try to limit the studio culture, it's the same thing. It's like you're sacrificing, all your time, energy, and money, and you're not getting much in return. And my thoughts are, you are only young once. You have, not too much overhead. If you want to do it, that's totally fine. It almost reminds me of if they tried to make, so I was in the Army, if they tried to make basic training easier, they'd be like, no, you're supposed to be screamed at midnight for, 2 weeks in a row. You're supposed to get no sleep. This is, supposed to be hard. And I don't mean that to torture anyone. I just think there's a variety. I think it should be like Libeskind. You should at least have a stipend. I don't think you should do it for free, because then that limits it to only people that can do it, that have money. So the stipend was enough to cover my rent and then food. And obviously it couldn't cover, anything else, but I didn't have anything else. So it worked out.
Right. And so there is lots to learn by working for someone like that. And clearly F9 Productions has been very successful. And so it's not completely based on Libeskind's studio, but certainly there were many lessons that you and Lance Psycho is your partner. We had mentioned that, but a lot of the questions a lot of the lessons that you learned at Libeskind probably, influence what you do today.
Yep. And especially too, I know there was a debate around interns. I don't like that term. I think that term is semi-appropriate when you're in college, doing a summer thing. It makes sense. Honestly, you don't know too much, you're just helping out and the firm is kind of teaching you. But after you graduate with college, then I think the real salaries and, should be in place.
What do you guys call them when you hire them as interns?
Associates or colleagues. Yeah. Like when we're talking, because some of them are at that level. And when we're talking with other clients, we just say, oh, my colleague Mark will be contacting you. And we call them designers.
I've heard you reference them to as colleagues on the podcast.
Yeah. But some of them, if they are in college and just coming for a summer work, and if I do slip up and call them an intern, I do think that's okay, because your degree isn't done yet. But once your degree is done, and you spend you learn so much in the first 6 months at a firm that you are years ahead, just by, being in there day by day and really tackling a project.
Talk about a little bit about how F9 Productions, your architecture studio, is structured. Well, to actually talk about the history of that a little bit, about how you guys started and then how it's structured.
Yeah, so the idea started when I got laid off by Libeskind, because I called Lance that night and I said, man, a storm is coming. And he goes, okay. He was still working at Studio HT, which was an amazing firm here. Both of his bosses won Young Architect of the Year for the United States. So he was working under some really good guys too. And he said, this BIM thing, I'm doing this BIM thing. I'm making BIM models. So he's going to do that. I was going to learn. I was going to make a website, go back to school. And I just kind of let him know. And from the podcast, what is it? Pat Flynn's podcast, we started alternate streams of income.
Yep. Smart Passive Income is Pat Flynn's podcast.
Yeah. So Lance started making that and he got laid off and he couldn't go back to school. He had kids at a time and a wife. So he just started doing carpentry work and started getting some jobs. And I was wrapping up my master's in construction management. And then basically I did the same thing to him because he could just kind of sustain himself. And I said, well, I'm coming down to Colorado. He's like, well, I don't know if I have enough work. I was like, I don't care. I'm coming. Got the apartment like right above him. So kind of just forced my way in. And then I just started getting work from the get-go. He had some, stuff already in the pipeline and I took over one project and things like that. But essentially we just worked as a two-man shop, killing ourselves for about 3-4 years. Until probably around 2014, 15, around there, 13, 14, 15, we started, we had an intern here or there, literally someone, in college helping us out. And then we kind of blew up and now we're up to about 10 people. And we're upset because one of them is on sabbatical in Europe, going around for 3 months. We're like, we need more people and we need our guys right now. You heard Lance in the pre-interview, kind of swearing that he needed more people. So how it's structured right now is that it's a two-headed beast. So I have a couple guys that mainly work for me, but we'll do side stuff, for Lance. And the same thing is true. He has people that will mainly work for him. And then if I need someone or something's urgent, I'll, take Josh or something like that. And then maybe a couple floaters. And we both have, are getting clients by ourselves. And then sometimes we'll see, what our strengths are. So if Lance somehow got a townhome project, he'd probably just shoot it over to me and say, hey, talk to Al about this. If I got an assisted living facility, I'd bring in Lance too. We haven't, back in probably a couple of years ago, we used to go to all meetings with clients together as a team. And then we decide like who fits better, who should take it, work like that. We've just been so busy that our schedules don't align, or, I'm working on something big or he's working on something big, that we've just been going at it, as a single-headed beast. Besides, if we see an opportunity for a major person in something new, then we'll come together and tackle it. But that's kind of how the firm is set up right now.
So it sounds like it's sort of evolved to be that you never really intentionally set it up that way, that it works best that way, and so you continue doing it that way. Yep.
And I would say because I don't know the breakdown, but a lot of our projects are, probably under 20 grand in commission, which might seem like a lot, but when you have, 10 guys, bills stack up rather quickly.
Yeah.
So, but if we are getting larger projects, schools, stuff like that, I think we'd coalesce and come back together for those meetings. It's just the time and doing all that, it kind of just separated at this point.
Yeah. So it sounds very flexible, that it works well the way it works now. And then if you need it to be a bigger monolithic firm, that you can very easily present yourself that way and work that way. Let's take a quick break here to say thank you to our platform sponsors here at EntreArchitect: BQE Software, ARCAT, and FreshBooks. This podcast episode is sponsored by BQE Software, the makers of BQE Core. BQE Core revolutionizes the way architects manage projects, time and expenses, billing, and accounting. Made by BQE, the company behind ArchiOffice, Core saves you time while giving you the visibility, the flexibility, and the power you need to grow your firm. Work from anywhere, seamlessly collaborate, and gain transformative insights with Core's groundbreaking platform. Learn more and get a free trial at entrearchitect.com/BQE. Hey, and if you want to see a demonstration of Core, I recently invited Stephen Burns of BQE Software to join me for a live EntreArchitect special session webinar, where Steve had the opportunity to show us inside Core and all it has to offer us small firm architects. And a recording of that webinar is available to our community, the EntreArchitect community, for free at entrearchitect.com/BQE webinar. So go check that out, and when you're ready to give it a try, visit entrearchitect.com/BQE and access your fully functional trial of Core free for 15 days. Hey, if you've been listening to this podcast anytime during the past few months, you've heard me talking about our friends over at ARCAT, and hopefully you're already using their free resources on a regular basis. But for those of you who have not yet checked them out, ARCAT is a great tool for small firm architects. ARCAT has a huge library of free content: CAD, BIM, specifications, and more. And they've done all the work for you. I mean it. They've done all the work. If you need a spec, click on over and download a CSI 3-part specification in multiple formats, free. How about CAD details or BIM objects? All free, click of a mouse. ARCAT has tons of building product content ready for you to use, and it's all completely free. You don't even have to register to download the content. And they've recently launched something new. It's called Charrette. Create a project, assign tasks, share and collaborate with colleagues and clients, all in real time. Pull content directly from the ARCAT database or from anywhere out on the web and keep it in Charrette. It's another free resource from ARCAT for you, the EntreArchitect community. Visit them right now. Go check them out. EntreArchitect.com/ARCAT. That's ARCAT. EntreArchitect.com/ARCAT. And click on the Charrette icon right there on the homepage to check out Charrette. Imagine what you can do if you had an additional 2 days every month to dedicate to anything that you want. Maybe you just want to spend more time on design. Maybe you want to start building that new business process. Maybe you want to start painting again. maybe you want to spend more time with your kids, or maybe you want to finally start that development project. Well, when you're a small firm architect using FreshBooks cloud accounting software, you could save 192 hours every month. That's 2 business days every month. That's the amount of administrative time that you could save this year if you're using FreshBooks. FreshBooks makes it simple to send invoices, post your expenses, automatically track your time for the whole team by project, and get organized with reports, communication, and notifications. My favorite feature of FreshBooks is the automated email reminders sent to my clients to remind them to pay their bills. That's done automatically, and you control the whole thing. Sign up for a free 30-day unrestricted trial and get ready for the simplest way to be more productive, organized, and most importantly, get paid faster. Visit EntreArchitect.com/FreshBooks to access FreshBooks for free. And be sure to enter EntreArchitect in the How Did You Hear About Us section. BQE Software, ARCAT, and FreshBooks. Please visit our platform sponsors today and thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. So F9 Productions is a very interesting name for an architecture studio.
Yeah.
What's the background on that? That's the question that I've never asked you guys, and I want to know that.
So that came in school after third year. So beginning in college, Lance and I didn't know if we liked each other. We were kind of rivals. And then by third year, we realized, I thought he had skills. He must have thought I had skills. So we teamed up. So, we'd put our desks together, and I'd always bring a kitchen table that I'd put behind us. Illegally from studio. Every year we'd get the email, do not bring desks that are not approved. Do not listen whatsoever.
Yeah, it's an architecture studio. We have our own rules.
Yeah, like you can come and take it if you want, but we aren't going to move it. And one of our professors, Lance and I were heavily, in the computer because I guess now it's accepted that people will be in the computer. And it wasn't even that long ago. It was about 10 years when we were in college. It's still a lot of hand sketching. And one of the professors would come over and be like, you guys cheat. The computer does all the work for you. So we'd even joke, we'd take our, mouse, and we'd be like, mouse, make building. And we'd be like, not too good. We're only in third year. We can't let them know that you are doing all the work. And in 3ds Max, F9 was the hotkey to render. So
interesting.
Some people would be complaining, it'd be midnight, we'd have techno music on, and Lance and I wanted to be better than everyone. And they'd be like, man, I want to go home and go to sleep. We're like, go ahead, just hit F9 and walk away. Computer will do it for you. You will be fine. You can get some rest, go to sleep. And then when Lance was first starting the firm, he's, we have our buddies that we talk to, and we're like, what should we name it? And no name was coming up, and just F9 Productions, because we only had renderings at that point because everything was conceptual. So it was just the production of that rendering function that the name came from. So that was it. And then to build on that, so we have so our tiny house is a company because it's rented as a hotel. Our development is a different company. So it's just evolved. We have F9, F10, F11, F12. We skipped F13, and now we have F14 and F15.
And these are all like projects that you've done, like big projects that you sort of are benchmark projects in your career. Is that sort of how you're labeling them?
They're for legal reasons.
Oh, so they're separate companies. Each one of those Fs are a separate company.
Yep. So for if you're starting a development project, your land should be another company, because in case something happens to that shouldn't affect you designing a house for Jane and John whatsoever. So our construction company, the same thing too. So that's legally, how we set it up. And you have to set up separate bank accounts too, so that, and you have to pay separate taxes and all that. So everything has to be legit and separate. But that's the, I don't know, you could say correct way to do it. That's the precedent way, the best legal way to do it.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions here. Adam Mayberry says, your development project, are you going to sell units individually or offer for rent? Any more developments in the works?
Yeah, so We're going to sell them off. Basically, we couldn't separate the parcels, so it'll be condos. Excuse me. So there'll be an HOA, and then you'll buy the units. So the 6 on one side will sell off. There's still talk about renting the 2 on the other side. And the only reason is we might rent them as affordable housing and then get some of our fees reduced. I don't think the math's going to work out, but everything will be separate. And then we'll have our own commercial project there. After we execute this one, or when it's probably 80 to 90%, construction done, everything sold, we'll be looking for the next piece of land. We already have our eye on a couple, but we really want to see how this first one goes before jumping into something else. And then also capital requirements, where all the money. So how we structure the firm also is that we try to stay lean. So even Lance's our salaries are, they wouldn't impress anyone. It's the dividends at the end that normally make up for everything and spread things out. But that allows us to go with the flows of architecture. So we take our bonuses afterwards, not beforehand. But a lot of this year's bonuses will probably go to pay down the land and pay the 25% that we need for the construction loan.
Yeah, talk about your development a little bit. You started with a tiny house, and then it sort of evolved, because I've had you guys on the podcast at EntreArchitect.com/podcast, and we've heard a little bit about your origin story. I've had you, Lance has recently been a guest presenter at our master classes at EntreArchitect Academy. You both work together on a masterclass at EntreArchitect Academy. So anybody who wants those should join EntreArchitect Academy.
Yep.
But talk about how because I think a lot of architects have a desire to work in development. I have 2 questions, actually. One was a recent podcast that I just recently has done. Do you think that every architect should do development? If not, why? And then the second one is how did you get from doing a tiny house to getting to do your most recent development project, which is a pretty big, significant project? So,
yeah. So the first one, I think the majority of architects should do their own development. And you should do it in what you are familiar with, or have the skills to do it. I think the main reason people don't is because of this money financial issue. So if you're an architect, you know how to design, you know how to build, you know how to talk to contractors, you generally know what's going on. But for some reason, and I think it's because no one ever taught anyone. So if there was a course in your in college just called being a developer, and they went through and they said, okay, for a bank loan, have all this. This is how much you'll need down. This is where maybe you find extra money. If that was just a studio course, I think it would gradually shift that way, because none of this knowledge is above, what you or me or anyone can comprehend. None of this is rocket science. You don't have to figure out an equation that you never knew before, or just don't have the capacity to do. So I would say jump in, and I would say jump in cautiously by mitigating risk. So how we did it is that we built the first tiny house, and Lance and I both have construction backgrounds, so it wasn't that big of a deal for us to build. So maybe even before that, get some construction experience. And how I did it was in the Army, which you don't have to sign up for. So
you want to do development, you have to join the Army.
Exactly.
Sorry.
But the other one, just Habitat for Humanity. Just signing up, going out there, seeing what's up. And then if you've been, make it a point to maybe go on your job sites, right? Just to see what's happening. I also built a chicken coop. I think it's awesome because it's sustainable. It has a metal roof and a stone wall, a trom wall, and it has a straw bale wall in the back. So I just use all these, cliches. Like I'm going to build one of each. Yeah. Just to see how it works. So just get experience in there. And then we built the tiny house. And then from there, we built 2 more crazy transformer tiny houses for a huge Fortune 500 company, just because they saw the first one. And you can go on our web page, f9productions.com, and we have pictures of all this.
Yeah, you've done podcast episodes on that as well. So you should definitely check out Inside the Firm podcast and listen to the podcast. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. So then again, by structuring our firm to save money throughout the year and then seeing what we wanted to do with that pile of money at the end, Then we were looking at land, and the first one we looked at didn't really go through. It wasn't going to make too much sense, and someone bought it for way more than we could. The second piece of land, someone again bought it out from under us, so we couldn't do anything. So we were just kind of sitting there, and then they wanted to sell it just for some health reasons. They just couldn't do the project that they wanted. So they said, we had a max that we'd go up to. They said, will you give us your max? And we said, yes. And they said, okay, you can have it now. And then we're doing townhomes, and which is basically, I do a lot of townhomes and residential, and Lance does a lot of residential. And so this is really within our wheelhouse. And especially from these tiny houses have hydraulic sky lifts on them. They, things fold. So what we told some initial bankers is this is child's play. This will not be going down the road at 90 miles per hour and then have the ability to unfold and hijack up. This will be stationary. So that's kind of how we did it. And hopefully we'll get it done before the next crash.
How did you, yeah, exactly. That's always the big question, right? And there's a lot of risk in development, and that's why you suggest that do it, but do it cautiously. Do it something small scale, get your feet wet, learn construction. We just had a podcast recently with Declan Keefe and Jim Zach, two architect developers on the podcast, talking about development and who should do it and who shouldn't do it and why. And it was a really interesting discussion. I've not heard people talk about the dark side of development. And so there's certainly some risks there, but it gives you the creativity freedom, and it gives you the ability to build what you want. Certainly there's some significant revenue that comes from that type of work.
Can I answer a question I saw earlier? It was about 5 minutes ago.
Yep.
So, and it's only because I have an opinion on this. Someone asked to define architecture.
Yes, I was holding that to the end, but go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a big question. So I was going to hold it, but let's answer it now.
There you go. Yep.
The question from Umar.
How can you define architecture? So this question came up in school, and I'm sure a lot of people talked about it. And a professor answered this, and from my opinion, he started going into the weeds. Because architecture is, if you narrowly define it, it's the design of buildings or built structures. And there's a little bit of latitude within that, what's a built structure, all that. And then basically you lead down this trail where the line keeps moving, and then architecture becomes everything. And that's how they always end up. Some professors, architecture is everything. And my opinion is, nope, it is not everything. Words have meaning. And, because they'll say art is architecture, putting your clothing on is architecture. Nope, there's a word for that. It's called getting dressed. There's a word for art. It's art. So I really want to pull back architecture to the design. And I don't have the dictionary in front of me, but it's the design of buildings. That is what it is. If you're doing something else, there's a different word for it. Obviously, but what I do believe is that you can apply architectural thought and design thinking to a lot of different areas. And that's where the bleed happens. And that's where the crossover can happen, is that you can use your architectural brain and creativity and look at how you're designing your business or how you're designing your life. But again, that's not architecture. You're just using your thought process there. Yeah,
I love that. I agree with you. I do think words matter and they have meaning. It's a very long, deep discussion, so we'll save that for another time. You can come on the podcast or back here at EntreArchitect Live and talk about that.
Yeah.
Michael has a question. Let's show Michael's question here. What was the deciding factor in designing and building your own development?
The deciding factor actually came down to a number. Could we get the land for under 18% of the valuation of the project? So in a broader...
Say that again.
Could you buy the piece of property for under 18% of what you're going to sell it for?
Okay.
If you broke it up the parcels. So you could go back and I couldn't clearly define, why design build. I've just always had, and I think a lot of people have that in their soul. Like, okay, I designed this. I want to go, build it or make it, or you've been in meetings with developers and they cut things, and you might think, I don't really need to cut things. I would always think, and I'd tell Lance, why do these developers have to max out the site? Every square inch, like, can't you give us a little bit room from the setbacks? Why do you have to be right up to the setbacks every single time? And it's hilarious when we laid out our project. So there's 6 units on one side, and the 6th unit just barely fit. And the question is, okay, do you eliminate that 6th unit and widen out the unit so you have a little bit more play, or do you keep that 6th unit? And guess what the answer was? It's you keep that 6th unit.
Because now you're an investor too.
Exactly. So it's always been a want, but whether to pull the trigger on was based on a factual number of that 18%. And I've heard that from different developers, and I've been planting the seeds and asking questions throughout the years of what are these key factors. And that's one of them.
That's very interesting to hear it sort of looked at it in terms of a formula like that. So if you didn't hit your 18%, would you go look for another piece of property, or would you just, if you couldn't, so you would just keep looking for a piece of property until you found one that would work the formula?
Yep. And I think you have to kind of think in these terms because you're competing against developers. You're competing against everyone else. So if it was above 18%, if it was close enough, we might pull the trigger. Or if we realized there was another opportunity where we could get more value than maybe someone else, or we could lower costs in somewhere to equalize that out. But if it was at 20, 22%, it's a pass, and be disciplined and go on to the next one.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll have to do this in some other format and get into much more detail on how you guys work your developments, because that would be a very interesting conversation. Let's get into the podcast, because a lot of what we're talking about and a lot of the questions that people may have, you answer already with Lance at Inside the Firm podcast. One of my favorite podcasts. It's on the top of my list every week. I don't miss an episode. I love the chemistry that you and Lance have. And I love how open and honest and transparent you are. That's definitely a theme with EntreArchitect as well. We're encouraging architects to share what you know. And you guys do that all out every week at Inside the Firm podcast. So talk about a little bit why you started the podcast, and then sort of why you keep doing the podcast.
Yeah. So we started a podcast before this that kind of went off air, and we deleted all the episodes, and it was called Driving to Work. And it was just Lance and I BSing. It was just, we were just talking about, whatever came up, non-architecture related. So that kind of died down after we did, 20 episodes or whatever. And we had all the equipment. We knew how it was set up. And Lance and I were so busy. We needed to discuss things and talk about, business things and what was going on. And with our philosophy, and you have the same philosophy of sharing it, we go, well, is this going to be useful information? And the answer is yes. And why not just share it? Why not record it and just share it? And then Lance, okay, what should we call it? Inside the Firm. You're coming inside the firm. It's 2 principals talking about what's actually really happening. So we just kicked it off from there, and we had one theme. We have a couple of themes running throughout. We have different segments. Nicholas Renard of Dig, he reads a piece of architecture, and he's normally pretty funny too.
He is funny. He's a good friend of mine as well. He's a member of EntreArchitect. I love hearing Nick reads every week. One of the main reasons I listen.
He somehow harasses us with it at the end every time.
It is awesome.
But the development is another theme too. So there are architects that are developers, and these podcasts have been great. Your podcast, other people's podcasts, and we thought, well, every time something happens, we might as well just talk about it. So okay, we're submitting to the city, or something else is happening, or especially when construction comes along, that will be very interesting. So the podcast starts, if I would suggest starting from the beginning, because it gives some of, the firm structure, how we started and all that. But if you're interested in development, it's there for you. If you're interested in firm dynamics, we even talked about, well, here's a shout out back to you. Every week, something cool from EntreArchitect Facebook
group that we're on right now. Yeah. You reference all the time.
Yep. And then we'll post a question and even thinking about expanding, the firm, or one topic came from one of your podcasts about basically how to become an employee-owned company. And then it was just, Lance brought up that idea, and I've heard about it before, but we never really, talked about it. So we're okay. How would it work? How would it make sense? How would you implement it? So it's just those types of discussions is what it's about.
Yeah, that's why I love the podcast so much. Much like ArchiSpeak and the guys over at ArchiSpeak, it's sort of two guys, in your case, two guys, three guys in their case, talking about architecture and just sort of having a conversation. But what I love about your podcast is that you're two partners talking, and many times you can tell that you're hashing things out right there live on the recording. That it's like a partners meeting that you're recording and sharing with the world.
Yeah.
That you come to Lance with an idea that he hasn't heard from you before, and you talk about it there with microphones in front of you, and Lance does the same thing. And I love the segments. I love Nick, and I love the code questions that you quiz each other on. I love the format.
I'm bad at 100% too. If you haven't,
I know. I noticed that. I'm keeping track. But I love the fact that it's open and honest, and that you can tell that you're working things out right there live, right in front of us. And
Yep.
so it's a very cool format. And I thank you guys for doing that, for sharing all of the knowledge that you have any way you can. So it's a thank you from me that you do the podcast.
Awesome.
I want to also, before we wrap things up, I want to talk about the book, because you have a book called The Creativity Code that you wrote a while ago, over a year ago. And so I'd love to hear why you wrote it, and sort of what you hope to get from that.
Yeah. So the philosophy is the same of why we wrote it, and the backstory goes back to giving and teaching. So essentially, we are growing, and we are trying to hire people, and we're trying to hire people just out of college, and they didn't have a skill that we needed, and that skill was Revit. So they had design skills, they could draw, but they didn't have that particular skill to be productive. So we went to the university and we said, can we teach here? We'd love to teach your students so that, we didn't tell them this, but selfishly, then we'll have better employees. And we went to the architecture school. Environmental design is what they call it there, but I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that. And they said, no, you cannot, but we teach the engineers. And could you go teach them? And we go, okay, what's the course? And they said, well, they need to know how to draw. They need to know a computer program, and they need to know how to be creative. And the problem is that at the end of their senior year, this is architectural engineering, and a lot of different engineers take this, is that they do a whole building. And they go, we've been noticing that they've been making very efficient boxes. And they said, the real world does not make just very efficient boxes, because they've trained them, to be logical and all that. So we said, yeah, we'll teach them. And when we decided to teach the course, we were like, okay, we just need to be as open and as giving as possible, right? So how do we teach engineers how to be creative? And we thought, well, we're not going to do anything, like have them paint or, have them go on a journey or anything like that. We're just going to give the tools to them, and then we're going to let them be free and see what they can come up with, right? So we taught them sketching techniques, very simple. We taught them, how to do Revit. And then we have lectures on just design principles. How does grouping work? How does alignment work? How to make a design, filter so that you can think about something, what's a parti? So these concepts that architects have. And we say, okay, you have the skills, and now you have these design principles. Design either a house, you can make up the whole program, or design a bridge. And then we give them parameters. So we do kind of focus on, it can only be this big, the bridge can only, do this or this, but to not have them go so crazy, but they can still put their passion into it. And the results have been absolutely amazing. So we would bring in, architecture professors and stuff like that, and they go, holy cow. And it works out perfectly every time we bring in a new critiquer. And they ask, they're stunned because a project will be absolutely amazing. And they'll go, what year are you in? Because you should be in my third year architecture studio. And they're like, oh, this is my first semester. I'm a freshman. And I'm like, yes, I'm so glad you asked that question to a freshman. Half the class is freshmen, so, odds are, but it's just that more impressive. And then after that, basically I tailored that into a book. And what I think is useful about the book, because I read other books too. And I had my dad on the podcast. He's a IBMer, and he gave some really good advice. And it's advice that, you or me, could think of and we kind of know. But when it comes from some sort of tested person or from something that's been proven, it refocuses you, just like those students, and says, oh, I only need to focus on these, or what if I just, take this design and I think about these concepts, will it improve it? So for students, this book would be, I think, amazing just to open their eyes to all these possibilities. For other professionals, I almost think it's more of, oh yeah, I know this, I should have been doing this, or this really works, or I can just edit my process a little bit to make sure that, I don't miss something, that I come up with something more creative, that just works better. So the book is an extension of the course, and it's talking about creativity, again, through that guise of architecture and visual thinking. And what we really unleashed too is, because these engineers do so much mathematics, is that we're programmed to be visual thinkers. And once you give the tools to sketch or to make something, they just go crazy. And I think architects take it for granted because that's what we do all the time. And we work all the time. And what these engineers would come up and say to us is like, yeah, when I'm sick of homework, I work on your project. I'm like, well, our project is homework too. Like, you realize that this is just another course, but they don't think of it like that. They think of it almost as a break from what they're doing. And I think it's because it taps into some sort of primal program that we have to visually create. And once you're given these tools, or, given another trick, we've just seen such great results. And I just wanted to put it in a different format, because not everyone can take the class or, be reminded or be refreshed for it. So it's a $15 book that I think will help out.
Yeah, it's a great book for architects. I agree. For architects, it's a great book to sort of as a reminder of what we do and why we do it and how we should do it. Some great new ideas that you may not already know. Definitely great for students, but it would be a great gift for a consultant or even a high school student who's just interested in architecture and not quite sure whether they're right for it or not. I think it's a very wide audience that could get some really valuable information from the book. So I'm glad you wrote it. I just posted up here on the screen, EntreArchitect.com/creativity code will send you to a link to buy it. If anybody wants to buy it at Amazon, it's not my affiliate link. I don't know. Is that an affiliate link for you? Or is it just a direct link?
I mean, I get a couple, yeah, it's just the Amazon. Yeah. You don't make much money off of books.
Yeah. No, I like to be transparent with that as well. So it is an affiliate link to Amazon. It's just, it doesn't cost you anything more. It gives
no, exactly.
Gives Al, a couple pennies literally by each book. But it's a quick link to get you there, EntreArchitect.com/creativity code. And I think we're going to wrap things up here. There's a couple more questions. I have one last question from the list here from our friend Nick. Who's taller, Lance or
Lance? Lance is slightly taller, but that just means I work hard to be better.
There you go. So there's your answer, Nick. Now you know. Okay, that's probably Nick now.
Yeah, exactly.
That question was from Nick Renard, friends of both of ours. Your top button is undone, Lance.
He just wanted me to look.
Yeah, exactly. You got him. Yeah. So very cool. Okay, but we also have some bonuses. We've been here for about an hour. I wanted to thank everybody for attending here and joining us live on the show here, EntreArchitect Live, at the EntreArchitect Community Facebook group. And I appreciate everybody for staying around this long, especially with the technical issues up front. So Al said that he's got a couple of free bonuses for us. Yep. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, so there's a link that Mark will put up, and basically, if you buy the book, and there's a website that you can go to, and you can choose one of three options, because we do a couple different things, and you can get these bonuses just by sending a receipt, that you bought the book. And the first one is we teach Revit. So before we even started teaching at CU, we taught other professionals. And again, it was the same thing. So we give almost absolutely everything we can. And what that means is that it's our template that we use in our firm that we update every year. So we just updated to 2018, and we went through a whole slew of updates to make our template more efficient, mean, lean, just ready to rock and be productive with schedules, sheets. And it has a pack of furniture and components so that everything can be plug and play. And then it has a back end where you can get training on families, on how to do a project. And this is also what really helped leap these students forward, is that instead of teaching them and giving them the basic Revit nothingness, is that after you teach them the basics, then you say, when you want to create something, here's this template, here's a million Legos. You can make anything your heart desires. And that's what we give to professionals too. So if you buy the book, you get 10% off. It's a firm license for around $1,000. So if you were ever going to buy Revit furniture, you might as well buy the book and save $90 on the whole package. The second one is that
so you're giving them three options. They can pick one of those options. If you go to entrearchitect.com/F9, it'll take you to a page that lays out those three options. If you buy the book, you can pick one of these options. Is that that's
yep.
the deal?
Okay. That's the deal. Second one, when I read books, a lot of times you get in the author's head, you get in their world, you get engrossed with what they're talking about. And sometimes I have a question or just want to reach out. And what the second option is a phone call or an email. Hey, you've been thinking about this. What about, how do you apply this thought to something different? That's another option. We can have a telephone conversation. We can work something out. We can have a Skype conversation. Be happy to do it. And the third one, I don't have it up. What was the third one?
Podcast chat out.
Yeah. So if you're a firm, we Mark already mentioned we run inside the firm. If you want us to promote your firm, what you're doing, anything like that, we'll happily give you a shout out on our podcast.
So a quick little ad spot, just a little blip.
Yep.
If you buy the book. Cool. So that's entrearchitect.com/F9. I'll take you to that page. Buy the book. It's worth the book. Just buy the book. And I see actually John Lehman posted there that he's thanking us for the inspiration and the informative conversation, and he just ordered the book.
Oh, thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. And let's just hide that. Oh, actually, we don't need to hide it. Let's keep that up so everybody has it. Okay, so that's the page. So Al, let's wrap things up. Is there any parting guidance you could leave the EntreArchitect community? Any final words? Doesn't have to necessarily be advice or guidance. Some final words.
I would just say we've heard from our listeners that some people are, a common advice is to just do it. And then we also had someone saying, I hate when people say that, you know what I mean? Because they're doing, other things, and it's not as easy. And at first I didn't understand that, because Lance and I like to jump into a lot of different things. But what I think we fail to mention a lot is that we do it strategically, and we do it without risking too much, right? So it's like someone saying, hey, be risky. But then they don't say, oh, well, I carved out time, at 5 a.m. to do this while I'm still doing my other job. So I don't take away billable hours, or I don't piss off my wife by coming home and never talking to her, or things like that. So whatever you want to do, I don't think you have to throw away what you've done in the past. I think you need to just carve out some time to maybe explore your little adventures and then put it out there and see what comes. And most of the time, if you are giving, I think it comes back.
Yeah. It definitely does. You guys are a perfect example at F9 Productions for everything you just said. You're doing so much. You're running an architecture firm. You're doing a podcast. You wrote a book. You're doing teaching. You're doing all these things, but you're doing them very strategically. And yes, you're just doing it, but you're doing it very strategically with a plan. And you're taking mitigated risks. You sort of know what you're doing when you're going to do it. But yeah, I agree. I mean, anything. EntreArchitect is another example of that. It's it was an idea for a long time before it actually happened. And when it finally happened, it was only me saying, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set a deadline, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to jump, and we'll see where it lands. And I'm still falling through the air, but you need to take that jump to make anything happen. So I think that's great advice. What's the best way to contact you?
Just email akg@f9productions.com. I'm not going to give out my phone number because I have enough telemarketers calling me. But on Facebook, we're at f9productions.com. That's our main website. You can find us there. My personal website is alexandergore.com. We're just doing a bunch of stuff. So if you look us up, you can find us. Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, and definitely subscribe to Inside the Firm podcast. If you get nothing from this, do that, because awesome. That is definitely a great show. I love the way you share and the knowledge that you're presenting there. Alex, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge here today at the first EntreArchitect Live here at Facebook, where we've done interviews. We've done a bunch, but this is our first interview. So thanks for being here and hanging out and sharing some knowledge.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a blast.
Well, that was fun. I loved talking with Alex. Alex is an interesting guy. He's doing some amazing things, and it was great to have Alex as my first guest at EntreArchitect Live over at the Facebook group. And I have 2 questions for you here at the podcast this week. Number 1, should we do more EntreArchitect Live sessions? Should we go to Facebook, the Facebook group at entrearchitect.com/group? If you're not a member, you can go join. It's a free group. It's closed, so the conversations that are in there, very supportive, active, interactive community in there. entrearchitect.com/group will get you in there for free. Go over there and let me know whether you liked the EntreArchitect Live session. The video is still there, posted in the group. You can watch the live video of what we just listened to. If you like it, let me know and I'll do more. If you want me to keep doing this, I need some feedback. I need some positive feedback about what we did, how we did it, and if you like it. If you don't, no worries. I'd love to know that too, and I won't do any more. If I don't get any feedback, any positive feedback, any feedback at all, no worries. I'll go do something else that you may like. So I want to do what you want me to do. So if you like this video, live video where you can ask questions too, which was the best part about it. I love doing that. Go to entrearchitect.com/group and go let me know. Number 2, would you share this episode with a friend? Share this episode, entrearchitect.com/episode 190, and let people know what we're doing here. If you've already shared it, share it with somebody else. Think of another person and share entrearchitect.com/episode 190 with them. If you haven't shared, please do. Please send a link right now, entrearchitect.com/190. Let a friend know what we're doing here at EntreArchitect, and we'll keep doing it because we want to help you build a better business. We want to help support you. We want to give you knowledge. We want to give a platform for other architects to share their knowledge with you. And we want as many architects out there to know what we're doing here at EntreArchitect. So go share it, entrearchitect.com/episode 190. And don't forget to go visit entrearchitect.com/free course for the free profit course. It is a 3-module, all-inclusive course that will teach you step-by-step how to be profitable. It goes through the whole process from beginning to end. You do what's in that course and you will be profitable. entrearchitect.com/free course. It's definitely worth much more than being free. It's worth at least $200. When we sell it, it's $197. We're giving it away for free in order to give you an introduction to what we do here at EntreArchitect. So go download it right now. It's free. EntreArchitect.com/free course. My name is Mark R. LePage, and I am an entrepreneur architect, and I encourage you to go build a better business so you can be a better architect. Think about it. If you have more money, if you are profitable, if you go take that course and you learn how to be more profitable, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to have more time and more resources and more money to go build more architecture, to design more architecture, to create more art, to be the architect that you want to be. Right? That's how it works. You go build a better business so you can be a better architect. That's the order that you need to do it in. It's profit, then art. Go build a better business so you can be a better architect. Love, learn, share what you know. Thank you for listening, and have a great week.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of EntreArchitect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.